So we are now live on Zoom, and let me figure out live on Facebook. Something happens here, and share it to a page I manage, which would be, why is it not on there? There it is. Okay, sharing to the Independence Facebook page. Preparing a live streaming. What the hell? My Siri's talking to me now. Looks like it's working.
All right, should we go ahead?
Give me one second. Let me just make sure. Yes, we are live on Facebook now as well.
Okay.
So.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Robin Elander with the Downtown Santa Barbara organization. I'm so excited to be in collaboration with Matt Kettmann from the Santa Barbara Independent for our next episode of the Downtown Business Spotlight, a weekly conversation with downtown business owners who are celebrating all of the contributions that they're bringing to downtown and really talking about what is happening, how are we pivoting during the pandemic. So we have this weekly conversation. Today we're talking about food and drink and multiple concepts. And then next week we have Larry Feinberg with the Museum of Art and also Jonathan Fox with the Ensemble Theater Company. Today I want to introduce our host, Matt Kettmann. Matt Kettmann is the senior editor at the Santa Barbara Independent, where he's worked since 1999 and covered a wide range of topics. Today he focuses mostly on food and drink, as well as special projects for the paper, and is also a contributing editor for Wine Enthusiast magazine, where he reviews more than 200 wines every month. His first book is called Vines and Vision, The Winemakers of Santa Barbara County, comes out this fall. So take it away, Matt, and thank you so much for this wonderful collaboration. Welcome.
Thank you, Robin. That was the full intro. Thank you very much. Yeah, as Robin said, I'm Matt Kettmann. I'm a senior editor at the Santa Barbara Independent. Been there since right out of college, 1999. And I've been covering, a lot of different things for the paper, but in the last decade or so, really focusing on food and wine. So I've gotten to know our guest today, Brendan Searls from Mizza, and his restaurant that's changed a few different times within La Arcata. So you can tell us about that and the current iteration of that and how they're dealing with COVID. And Marge Cafarelli from the Public Market, one of the biggest developments in downtown in a long time, and a really major food and drink hotspot that we all know of, and has had to pivot in crazy ways for COVID. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into their thoughts for the future, the coming months when it might get a little cold and this kind of outdoor dining solution needs some tweaking perhaps. And so we will talk about that. And also, we've been allowed to go back to indoor dining a little bit. So we'll see how they're dealing with that. First, let's go to Brendan. He's been in town a little bit more than Marge, and has run a number of businesses going back to video stores in Santa Barbara. So I think, our viewers really like to learn a little bit about people and their backgrounds. I don't think people might know your face and they know your businesses, but they may not know, how you got here. So you obviously have an accent. Tell us where you're from, Brendan, and how you got to be such a important restaurateur in Santa Barbara.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Robin. And it's nice to be here with you all. So I've been in town since 1990. I came to town and I bought a store called Video Schmidio. A lot of people have fond memories of that. Way back when there was VHS, we had 11,000 VHS tapes. So that will give you an idea. And then I have done several other businesses in town. I did Bogart's Cafe in La Arcata Plaza in 1993.
Right behind you.
Right back down there, yeah. So I'm delighted to be full circle back in La Arcata. Feel very fortunate. Great group of people here, great landlords, and a pivotal part of town. I did Dorgan's Irish Pub in 1997. I did Pizza Mizza. I was an owner at the Beach Grill at Padero for a while. I did the Dorgan's in Ventura, and I did Rookies in Ventura. And then I moved on and I did a chain of Irish pubs called Brendan's. And I did one in Camarillo, Newbury Park, and Agura Hills, as some other businesses along the way. I am involved in a concept in San Luis Obispo called 1865 Crafthouse and Kitchen. And I feel lucky to be a part of the gastro community here in Santa Barbara again. It's a challenging time, and it's one of those times in our lives, I think, where the creative juices have to really be to the forefront of everything that we're doing. I think amongst the industries that have been most challenged, the restaurant and hospitality business is certainly right up there. I've been in town for a long time. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be part of the community. And it's been really fun to watch how creative people have become. And I hope going forward that we actually do remember to support all of these people, not just our restaurants, but all the local entrepreneurs who are going to need us to get away from our computers and actually go shop at the local stores, all the retail stores, picking up the independent again, just walking around, going to the ice cream parlors, and remembering that the small businesses and the downtown area are incredibly important to the whole ambiance and the whole well-being of the town.
Right. And remind us right now, what are your primary businesses on State Street right now?
So we're currently, we actually have a really interesting dichotomy in that we have a restaurant right on State Street called Mizza Artisan Pizza and Italian Cuisine. And we have 1114 in the plaza's interior behind the Turtle Fountain. That was the old Acapulco. Many people have fond memories of that location. Cielita was here prior to my taking over. And then I ran Viva for 4 years. And in collaboration with the landlord, Lynn Tamesian, we decided that we would go to a gastropub style concept, which is now the iteration called 1114. 1114 being the address, and so 1114 State Street. And we've been challenged on the interior, and we're feeling the pedestrianization benefits of State Street on State Street. So we have a unique perspective in that the traffic on State Street has certainly benefited Mizza, but has created challenges on the interior.
And how have the patios been? The ones we can see right behind you at 1114, have they been busy as long as you've been able to keep them open?
You know, I think Marge will attest to this as well. I think people are very anxious to be outside. Even this weekend when we were able to be open, we found that 97 to 98% of the people would prefer to be outside. And I think going forward, I'm not imagining people's preferences changing very quickly. And I think as the temperatures drop, and once we get to November 1st with daylight savings time changing, I think we're all going to have to give serious consideration to weatherizing those patios and creating some warmth and creating some shelter and even trying to create some rain barriers. But I don't see people wanting to come inside as quickly as people were thinking. Now, maybe as we progress into the winter and as people become a little bit more confident, they will. But definitely people are wanting to be on the patios.
Yeah, great. Well, before we get too deep into the weatherization and those ideas, let's go to Marge. Marge started the public market many years ago now. So tell us about how you came to Santa Barbara. I know you have a long history in San Francisco and you came here many years ago, and how the public market got developed and how all that was going, which seemed extremely well until COVID hit.
Well, Matt and Robin, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. I think this is a really fun program that you've got going on each week, and I'm delighted to be here with Brendan. So I came to Santa Barbara in 1977, and I worked for Ray Klein. That's a name from the past. Some of you may know who he was. At the time, he was a restaurateur here in Santa Barbara. And I worked for him for several years, and I moved to San Francisco in 1986. And I lived in San Francisco up until 2 months ago, when I moved out of San Francisco, moved out of our apartment downtown, and now call Santa Barbara home. Although my heart it will always be, part of it will always be in San Francisco. So I lived here, soon after school, and worked for Ray. I call it getting my master's and PhD in all things business, and then went up to the Bay Area and came back and forth from the Bay Area all of those years, and had been looking for something to do here, and had the project on Victoria Street, the old Bonds grocery store site, became available. And we were lucky to be able to have an accepted offer on that project. And we put together a plan to build 37 residential condominiums and 3 commercial condos. So the public market is actually a condo as well. And
a very big one.
Yeah, it's a big one, right? And the goal, and we did that at the time because the economy was, we bought the property in August of 2008. And 2008, there was a lot going on in our financial markets. The economy was on the verge, was starting to tank. And we knew that there was upheaval, but we created the condominiums, the commercial condominiums, so that we could have an easier way of financing them after the fact. So we wanted to do a project that was really a legacy project for me, for Santa Barbara, building housing downtown and creating something with the commercial that was different than a big box retailer, but something more boutique. And so I really looked at, the great markets, the great food halls of around the world. And one of the markets that popped into my mind was the great market in Madrid. And so we wanted to create something really special, and hence the Santa Barbara Public Market was born. It's been quite an interesting journey for sure. Santa Barbara's only 90,000 people. And we built a project that the first 6 months, people walked around like it was a museum, wow, just so enamored by it. And it took some time for the community to embrace it, but we feel that the community has embraced it. We use the tagline where Santa Barbara comes together. And, it's been a very challenging time with COVID, the things that we've had to do, the support that we've given our tenants, because the public market is about the collection of incredible entrepreneurs that are there. So it's really about how do we continue to make and help them viable.
Well, and I will say, now that I think about it, I mean, you had to pivot prior to COVID. You pivoted a number of times just within the market itself. You made some design changes. You had tenant movement. You had to come up with some of your own businesses too. So you had this uniquely advantageous running start for rethinking about how you do things and what you do, where you do them. I mean, did you find that helpful when it was time to move on a pandemic situation?
Yes, absolutely. The first year and a half, we lost 5 tenants. And so, we had to pivot. We went, Forager's Pantry was a grocery store. We had to switch gears, and we made that a beer garden with 41 beers on tap. We owned Wine Plus Beer from the beginning. Then you just have to go out and continue to find the right tenants, the right mix with the tenants that you currently have. And we're getting ready to, pivot again, if you will. I purchased a full liquor license in April of this year, and we will be implementing a full liquor license that will be market-wide. So all of the tenants will be on one license, and you'll be able to get a cocktail, hard alcohol, in the garden. Everybody else will sell beer and wine, but you can get a cocktail and go sit at Empty Bowl's counter, or sit at Cadario Pizza Veloce, or Wabi Sabi. So you'll be able to move around the market. And we think that will be, really helpful for us, moving forward.
Well, and that's been one of the most, I think, troublesome things for not just you guys, but for every kind of shared space development, which has become, a very big trend, not just in Santa Barbara, but beyond. And the movement of liquor around has been one of these big hurdles for everyone to tackle. So congratulations on tackling that. I know those aren't typically cheap to buy. So you're putting some investment there, which is great. So let's go back to March. March happens. We realize that the coronavirus is not something that's someone else's problem. It's our problem to deal with. I mean, Marge, you were really out in front of it. So tell us what moves you made to kind of adjust, and then we can shoot to Brendan and see what he did as well.
Sure. So we closed on March 17th. We had been, the week prior, we had been meeting with the tenants almost every morning at 8 a.m. We had a meeting just to keep updated, try to stay ahead of it. And they, our tenants were nervous, what's happening? What are we going to have to do? And no one really knew what we were going to have to do. But then came the time that, yes, we have to close. So we met on the 16th, and I said, guys, this is it. We're going to have to close. And immediately I got in touch with Saul Placentia from Restaurant Connection. And, to his credit, he really worked day and night to get the Santa Barbara Public Market up on his website as one restaurant so that you could order from all of the tenants with one transaction. And he did an amazing job getting us up and running on his website. And so that, I think we closed on a Tuesday, and we were up and running on Restaurant Connection the following Friday. Not when I say that next Friday. Friday. And, it was about keeping people employed. We deployed our maintenance staff at the public market, which they're amazing men and women that are in our maintenance, on our maintenance staff. We just had them clean the place from head to toe. Every nook and cranny, we sanitized, disinfected. The tenants were doing takeout and delivery. And, that was the first iteration. We did that until then we were able to open at 25%. And I think that was in May, potentially, that happened.
And that lasted not very long, right?
Not very long. And then we closed and we were only outside, and we had 42 seats outside. And that wasn't going to work, because what happened for us was when State Street closed, now I'm competing against people that probably have more seating than they've ever had on State Street. And people have now these other options, and I only have 40 seats. And so
multiple tenants and your own businesses.
And multiple tenants. And so that's when we met, we asked the city to close West Victoria, because it wasn't just about the 8 tenants in the Santa Barbara Public Market, but you've got Bouchon on West Victoria, you've got Scarlet Begonia that had just opened, and you've got Olio Pizzeria, Olio Restaurant, and now they've got Elaine and Alberto have taken the Crudo Bar and they've opened Olio Bottega. And so they've had to pivot. And it was a game changer for us to get the city to allow us to close that half block. Yeah. So now we were able to add another 60 seats outside, which made a difference. And we pulled some TVs out so people could watch sports as well. But it's the constant, you hear that something's going to happen and you get ready for it. And if it doesn't happen, well, that's okay. You were ready for it. And if it does happen, you can pull the trigger. Same thing that happened when we were able to go inside with 25%.
Right. So before we get there, let's talk to Brendan about what you do. I mean, you have Mizza on State Street. and you were able to go on to State Street. I don't know why our publisher keeps jumping in on this, but you're able to go to State Street. You're one of these restaurants that got this new, advantage is a funny way to say it, because you're dealing with the horrible disadvantage of a pandemic and all of your seating disappearing, but you're able to go on State Street. How did that help your business? And you've developed a nice space out there, and how's that going?
So I think going back to the start of the pandemic, much like Marge, we had to be very reactive. And so we were actually quite fortunate in that we had just launched a new concept called BOGO SB, which was essentially an iteration of a business that I used to run called Pizza Mizza. And so we had a service called Delivery SB, and we morphed that into BOGO SB, which essentially is a 2-for-1 concept for large pizzas. Obviously, we supply other foods like salads and sandwiches and pastas, but we had just launched that at the beginning of March. And so when everything closed on March 16th, March 17th, we continued to run that, and we actually pushed it quite hard, and we used it as a way to get food to some of the less fortunate people. And we made some free food available if people weren't able to afford it. And we kept quite a few of our employees employed until we, like Marge, were able to reopen in May. And so we had the interior patio at 1114 Crafthouse available for people to come and sit at, even though we weren't allowed to serve people out there. That patio has always been, in my mind, one of the best patios in town. It's got the turtle pond, that's an interior, you don't have traffic. So that was always a major attraction, even in former iterations of other restaurant concepts, and I think it's much beloved. But like you said, on State Street, we were able to expand out onto State Street with the pedestrianization. And I think it's important for us all. I mean, I feel that the vibrancy that it's brought to downtown and the traffic, and even for people from 7 o'clock in the morning to late at night that used to come downtown, are now actually using the State Street. And I, for one, feel like that's a benefit to the rest of the town, and even the archeries, the side streets. So we got out on State Street pretty quickly. We were one of the first to ramp up, and definitely has helped. I mean, we're definitely not back to summer dollars like the past years, but it's definitely allowed us to pivot successfully and have an ambiance. I think, you know, like Marge was talking about which city was it? Madrid's food hall. If you're in Europe, I'm obviously from Ireland and I grew up in pub culture, but you know, you don't have very good weather in Ireland, but the pubs all have patios, and they've all figured out a way that you can sit outside. And even on a cold, wet winter's night, there are lots and lots and lots of patios. And if you go to other parts of Europe, people are very much about sitting outside. And I think going forward, it's going to be very important that the city, first of all, is congratulated for moving so quickly. I think you just have to look at Ventura. Ventura came up here and took a quick look at what Santa Barbara had done, and then they followed us very quickly. So I think the city leaders did a tremendous job. And I hear lots of complaints, but I, for one, just have to say, I've been met with cooperation. I've been met with real, let's try to get this done. And I think it's allowed for the city to collaborate with the small businesses in a way that they haven't in the past. So I'm grateful for that, and I shout out to all the city leaders for that. And I hope when the time comes, either in December or March, that we can create some kind of conformity and that we can create a level playing pitch for everybody so that nobody is hurt by this. I want everybody to win. I want all my fellow entrepreneurs and all my fellow food vendors and all the other restaurateurs in town. I want everybody to win. But I think if we take a progressive approach to it, and if we look at just not, Marge made reference to the fact that there are 90,000 people here. We have the crown jewel of Southern California. We have 11 million people living in LA. We have Bakersfield. We have other urban areas that do not have coastline. And we, many times in past years, I've heard people complaining that we have too many restaurant seats and we have too many hotel rooms. I don't believe that. I believe that we have an abundance of what other people want. And they want to get out here on a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday. They want to bring their families out to the clean sea air, and they want to enjoy what we get to enjoy every day. So I think it's going to be important in the future that we market the city as a whole, and that we almost take a concierge approach to it, that each restaurateur, each business, when we have visitors in town, that we actually think about the daisy chain effect. People need to be treated in a way that they want to come back, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's the public market, whether it's an ice cream shop. Let's deliver superior service. Let's have them going back to their families and telling their neighbors and telling their families that they want to go back to Santa Barbara. You know, a rising tide raises all boats. And so if we can get everybody to embrace the fact that we are all in this together, we are obviously side by side, and Santa Barbara has unique advantages. I was speaking with Tommy Parker this morning, and I was talking to him about coming on this call. And he reminded me that the architecture on State Street is world renowned. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 100 times that people didn't realize how many trees there are on State Street. And now the fact that people are walking up and down State Street to go, oh my Lord, how did these trees get here? So yeah. I think we've all had to pivot. I think the city's done a great job. I think the winter's going to be challenging, but I think we all just are going to have to buckle down and do the best we can.
Yeah, and there's two kind of thoughts I have from what you were just saying. And one of them is that, and I hear this repeatedly, and I've seen it with my own eyes, that the State Street is so vibrant with all of these, with the promenade aspect, and yet you got to assume that you're still only seeing 50% of the people at most that would be actually coming down there. So you're looking at a potential vibrancy of 2 to 3 times what you're seeing now, you know, in a post, acute COVID environment. I think you could see tons and tons more people out there. And then the other part, which is going to be really interesting to watch just from the journalistic aspect, is I don't think anyone wants to put the genie back in the bottle, but there's probably going to have to be some process to getting towards a fair, as you say, and kind of conforming situation on State Street. And that's going to be a crazy, process, and it'll be interesting to see. And luckily, the city is very business friendly right now, it seems. And no one's going to push too hard one way or another. I think everyone wants everyone to succeed at this point, but it's going to be fun to watch and see, you know, how that's navigated. But before we see that, I mean, so winter's coming. That doesn't necessarily mean rain here right away, as we know, but it does mean darker nights. It does mean colder air. I don't know which of you wants to go first on kind of tackle. And actually, Marge, tell us a little bit about the indoor situation that you're seeing right now, and then tell us a little bit about what you're hoping for the future.
So I just want to say one thing about what Brendan said, and you know, I agree with Brendan. The city has really embraced this notion of street closure, and you know, we're not State Street and we're the only side street closed. So it was really a big deal for our little side street to be closed. And Robin participated in that a little bit, and our council member, Megan Harmon, and, you know, we were able to reach out to other council members. And so, you know, we employ at the public market almost 250 people. And so, you know, it's material when you think of how many concepts there are. And so I think that it's true. We all have to survive. I mean, I want Bouchon, Olio, Scarlet, you know, 1114, Crafthouse. I want all of the businesses to thrive and do well, because if only a few of us do well, there's no enduring benefit. So indoors, going indoors, Matt, is challenging when you have outdoor seating as well, because you've got a staff. We are very conscientious about sanitizing, disinfecting. We actually have signs that say, please leave your trash, so that our maintenance staff can separate the trash, put it away, and disinfect the table and the chairs, you know, when you leave. So we have at all times 2 maintenance staff outside. Well, now we've got 100 seats inside. So we put a call, you know, to all of the tenants, you have to help, you know, because the cost goes up exponentially, and the cost is their cost. And so we're trying to keep those costs down. So now the tenants are helping, clearing tables that are in front of their businesses, sanitizing, disinfecting. You know, before we reopened, you know, when we had to do the attestation and fill out the stuff online for the county, I require that each tenant do a separate attestation for their business and complete a COVID plan for their business. Not the public market doing it for them, but each business had to think about what they're doing. We provide the sanitizer and the disinfectant for, we have a mop area that everybody partakes in, mop room and whatnot. And so they get the the disinfectant and sanitizer from that area. So everybody's using the same thing. So it's a little bit challenging because we have to have that outdoor seating and that indoor seating now. And so, you're split between the two, but we're grateful. We're grateful that we have it. We're grateful that we've been able to add 100 seats. It only helps, draw more people. People do want to sit indoors as well, when it's hot or smoky, or they just, want to be inside versus being outside. It really is a help for us, and our older customers, sometimes, families with, multiple kids, they want to be inside sometimes more than outside. So, it's been a little bit of, okay, we've got to think about this, we've got to think about that. And, now we're really engaging the tenants, and you have to help do some of this stuff.
Right. And Brendan, how's the inside move been for you guys? I mean, you don't have, well, you have a few big rooms actually at 1114. And then you have obviously indoor space, a couple different ones at Mizza too. So what have you been doing, and how's that going?
Well, again, it's so interesting to hear Marge, because with all different concepts and with all different locations, you're going to have different reactions. 1114 actually has 250 seats inside. With our outside seating and with our event room, we can seat 400 people. So this is actually a huge restaurant. Out on Mizza, we have about 130, 140 seats inside. But I'm finding, and talking to other restaurateurs in other parts of the state, I'm finding that people are still quite reticent to go inside. And although there are some families and there are some occasions where people will go inside, I'm finding that the vast majority of people, I would say 95% plus, want to actually still be outside. And so we're really going to put some effort into weatherizing the State Street out at Mizza. And then we're lucky enough that two pieces of our patio at 1114 are already covered. Purchasing some more heaters for both locations. And I'm, as the winter comes along, we're going to have to continue to pivot. I had some custom fire pit tables designed and built, and I'm in the process of getting a bunch of those for 1114 and a bunch of those for Mizza. We're lucky here at La Riccata that, much like Marge, she has a bunch of tenants. Our landlord, Lynn Tamesian, has been incredibly proactive about helping the tenants any which way she can. And, we're lucky that this plaza is constantly full. We've had a few new concepts. We have a new hair salon. We have a new winery opening up. And we have Ace Rivington moving from the inside of the plaza out to State Street. And our optician is just about to open a children's eyeglass store. So that's going to be super cool. So there's lots of vibrancy here. There's lots of activity. We're having music at the weekends on the interior of the plaza. So I just think as we go forward and as the city lifts the ban on outside amplified music, I think you're going to see like outside amphitheaters popping up. I see you're going to see more. I would love to see more street performers. And I think, again, going back to my point earlier about making the city more attractive to our visitors. It's very, very important that everybody understands that. I think statistically, a day visitor from LA spends between $150 and $180 each. And an overnight visitor spends somewhere between $350 and $500. We don't have enough density in this town, in my opinion, to support all of the hospitality. And so we have to continue to make the place as appealable and as a destination spot to the other urban spots around town or around the state. If we can get people coming up from LA rather than going to Palm Springs or going to Vegas, that's going to help us all.
All right.
Yeah,
and yeah, go ahead, Marge.
Well, I was just going to say, it's interesting because the public market really is a locals place. We don't, I would say that maybe 20% of our business are visitors. And, you know, we work with Visit Santa Barbara, and, you know, we work with concierge, you know, obviously hotels were closed, but we work on that. But I would say that 80% of the people that come to the public market are locals. And that has really boded well for us in terms of, you know, coming out of COVID, you know, having the local Santa Barbara, oh God, we're so happy that we can be here. And, you know, when they saw the outdoor space, they were just thrilled. I think the difference with our space at the public market is that it's so big, and the ceilings are, you know, 17 feet, that it's so spread out. When you consider having 100 seats indoors, it feels really like, wow, you know, I had somebody say to me the other day, wow, you could put more tables and chairs in here. And we said, no, this is good for now, you know, to really practice social distancing. But we really are a locals, you know, destination.
Right. And you both are putting investments obviously into the outside, and Brendan, as you talk about weatherizing, and you're meaning heaters, you're meaning better protection from the rain and the elements. I mean, are you getting any indication from the powers that be that like this is going to stick for a while? I mean, not necessarily official word, but like some sort of like wink, wink, like it's going to be okay, spend this money, or are you just kind of going on a limb and believing that this is the right move right now to get us through the winter?
Well, I think, like you referred to genie in the bottle. So I don't think I've heard one person, perhaps one, say that they didn't like the pedestrianization of State Street. And I think I've been in town since 1990. I've been in retail businesses here in one iteration or another. And I've constantly heard people talking about we should pedestrianize. And I've had lots of friends and other business people say for many years that they didn't think it was a good idea. They thought that the traffic diversion and moving people off of State Street wouldn't be healthy. Well, what I've seen is I've seen people from Montecito, Hope Ranch, Goleta, Carpinteria come up and walk their dogs from the beach all the way up to Marge's Marketplace and beyond. And so, do I believe it's going to stay? Yes. Do I believe it will be in some kind of a more conforming fashion? Yes. Do I believe that there's going to have to be some kind of conformity to design? Yes. But I think if the politicians and if the powers that be tried to change it, I think there's a swell of enthusiasm from the general public. And I think from most business owners, I'm not going to say all, because I think some are definitely hard done by this, but I think eventually, if we can make the promenade, or let's say the State Street Promenade, an attraction to people that don't live here, I think it will help everybody. And so I think it's going to stay. I think we're definitely going to have it through March. And then I think there'll probably be a series of meetings, and I think there'll be a lot of discussion on how to do it correctly. But then again, it all depends on what happens with the pandemic, and are we going to regress? Are we going to eventually come out of this? And you were talking earlier, Matt, I don't believe that people's behavior will go back to normal or even close to it as quickly as anybody's imagining, because people are used to cooking at home now. People are used to Zoom meetings, the normal traffic patterns. I park here in the lot behind 1114, and I have never, since March, seen it more than half full. And you would come into that lot, it's right across from your office, and that lot was always full. You couldn't get a spot. So the administration—
I used to park there all the time.
Yeah, the county administration building isn't active. The courthouses are acting through Zoom. So life has changed, and I think we're just all going to have to be patient with each other. We're going to have to be very creative, and just understand we do have inherent advantages. We have one of the more beautiful cities in the world. We have enough hotel beds to accommodate the tourists, and we have enough restaurant seats and enough accommodations generally to have lots of visitors. We can swell at the weekends, and we can make sure that everybody leaves happy.
Yeah, great. Marge, for you, when let's say everything goes back to normal overnight, obviously not happening, but let's say that happens. Would you still keep your outdoor seating, or would you just prefer to go back to what it was like before, if that's possible?
Well, Matt, I think the outdoor seating is a real boon to our businesses and to the other businesses on the block. Um, you know, I'm, the way I used to look at things a couple of months in advance, and now I take it 2 weeks and a month at a time. We're looking at what do we do when it gets dark at 5 o'clock and it's, 55 degrees outside. And so like Brendan, 3 months ago, we bought 12 heaters. We bought, 25 umbrellas, just to get situated outside, in addition to everything else we did. And now we're looking at, what do we do outside? What do we build to enclose, the garden area that we've created outside? And, it's again, it's just kind of this bouncing ball. You just have to keep looking, what do we need now? What are we going to need in a few weeks? And I'm not really going beyond that at this point. We have worked with our tenants. We've abated rent. In the beginning, we abated the second half of March and the month of April. Most everybody got the PPP, and so they paid rent. In August, when we moved outside, we abated a part of August for them to kind of give them a leg up on, okay, now we're outside, let's see what we can do. We don't charge the tenants for any advertising that we do or social media. And so we've really been pumping that out as much as we possibly can. We're all in this together, and, we want them to thrive. And, I have a Zoom call I just had a Zoom call with them, and we decided that we're going to do this every couple of weeks as a check-in. I mean, I check in with them when I'm in there, hey, how's it going? But just for everybody to be together and be able to share what's happening or what they might need, or, hey, what's happening with you, so that they can get a sense. And one of the things we asked was, how's your business, right now? And we went around the room, if you will, and it was between 15 and 25%, 30% down. I know for us at the garden, we're probably around 35% down, 40% down, because we're used to having all those TVs going at once. And so it's tough. But if we can just, get through the winter and, get through the winter without, a catastrophic outbreak in Santa Barbara, when the kids come home from college, I will call that a huge success. And then we can just start building on that.
Yeah. And that's another great thing about living here. And to talk a little bit about Brendan's idea of advantages of living here is that, you're mentioning 55-degree nights. Maybe it gets down to 45 every once in a while, but you know what? You can eat in a jacket. It's okay. Right. You can wear a hat.
You can't eat in a snowstorm. You can't eat in a snowstorm.
It's hard to eat in 0 degrees, but you can eat in 55 just fine. So,
and Matt, to your point about asking Marge about would she give up the patio if it went back to normal, one of the thoughts that I think is really important when the discussion does come around is, personally, I find the city a lot more interesting with the outdoor seating. I love the creativity. You've got a wonderful restaurant on the block where Marge is, Arigato, and I've been friends with Billy for 30 years, and he's built a fantastic structure out there in front of Arigato. And, we're in the process of designing and building a structure for State Street, and we're going to do it out of metal. And the reason that we're going to do it out of metal is it's non-combustible, and it will allow us to be a lot more creative with how we heat it. And
so are we.
Good, perfect. And I think
Yeah.
just, I waited to see what everybody else had done. We made the commitment to the fire pits. We did buy extra heaters. We did buy extra umbrellas. We did buy extra seating. And so from my perspective, when people are sitting on State Street or on different patios, side patios, Kai Dario did a really good job. All of the restaurants have had to be creative. But what you're seeing is you're seeing a lot of people watching. You're actually seeing the food that people are eating. You're actually getting to see the personality of the restaurants on the streets. And I think if you go to Europe or if you go to some other American cities, you'll notice that that's a vibrant part of the most vibrant downtown. And I want to see us doing that. I want us to look forward, and I want us to see an opportunity to get better. We're off in our numbers a lot for the year, but I'm going to talk about the here and now and how are we as nimble as a city and as a business and as a community so that we can all come out of this and say, we took advantage of a situation. We were put in a corner. We got the city, we got the police department, we got the landowners, we got the tenants, and we got the entrepreneurs to create a vibrancy that allows the city, when this all comes to pass, allows us to shine and actually embrace the fact that we had to pivot. And all of a sudden, our city becomes business friendly for the first time in as long as I've been here. And that's a major achievement. I'm sure, Marge, you've had to deal with that in a development your side, and I've been dealing with other municipalities for many, many years. And I would have to say in the past, this was certainly not a business friendly community. And now I feel that has changed dramatically. And I'm hoping as we go forward that we take some of the souls and some of the people that have been doing business and that we put them all in a room and we do a brain dump and we actually say, okay, how can we make this and how can we turn this into an advantageous position for everybody, not just the people on State Street, but for everybody.
Yeah. Well, Brendan, that's a great
Well,
point.
and
I think yeah. Go ahead.
Well,
Marge.
I was just going to say to Brendan's point, the engine of this city is small business. And, I think what happened was that the powers that be saw the vacancies on State Street and what could have happened if they did not act. If they had not acted, all of these businesses would be gone because, there comes a point, how long are you going to write a check to keep something going if there is no end in sight? And so, I completely agree. This city had to make some big puts and calls to get to the other side. And they've done absolutely the right thing for the long-term success. And, just hearing you talk, Brendan, about, Europe and, making downtown more inviting. I was having breakfast this morning at Olio Bottega, and I could have been in Europe. I could have been in any small city, Andalusian, in Italy. I could have been in any one of those countries having breakfast, having my cappuccino and my little Italian breakfast that he made for me. It was fantastic. And when you walk, on our part of West Victoria, which is a narrower street, it's very inviting, and you see the buildings. This is this building and this is that building, and it's interesting. And you get on State Street and you get to see the texture of the city and the texture of these buildings and the architecture that we talk so much about in Santa Barbara, in El Pueblo Viejo. We spend so much time and energy speaking about preserving architecture and preserving a way of life. Let's preserve it. Let's create a walkable city where it should be walkable. Who drives on State Street? I mean, the trolley. I love walking up and down State Street now that it's closed, and I see things, and I've lived here since the 80s, and I see things sometimes that I've never seen before. And I say to myself, wow, that's interesting. Is that new? No, it's not new. It's just another way of seeing something as you go on foot.
Yeah.
So true.
Those are great sentiments to wrap this up on. I think Robin has some news for us too about some upcoming more fun. So Robin, tell us what you'd like to talk about.
Thank you. This has been such an inspiring and informative conversation. Both of you are doing amazing things with your businesses, and you have really created more ambiance downtown and all of these things that you're speaking of are definitely things to continue the conversation and continue that collaborative engagement of our business owners. So I'm excited about all of what you've shared. I do want to share one other exciting thing that we are also pivoting as the downtown organization. We are initiating a new Thursday market that begins with the time change. So on November 1st, that's the time change. November 5th, we will be starting an every Thursday market on the 1000 block and 900 block to support the businesses in those areas and the greater downtown. So this will be something that over time will turn into kind of an entertainment center. Initially, it will be all about retail, supporting the businesses throughout downtown, and the businesses that are already in the business improvement district can participate in that market for free. And then we are also highlighting the businesses on that block. In addition, we'll have some artisans, we'll have some unique additional vendors to participate, some art installations, and this coincides with the new some new holiday lighting. So we're having our regular holiday lighting is actually going to be initiated sooner. So November 1st, that will begin. So lots of light to support our downtown businesses throughout downtown. And then in those 2 blocks, we'll be having some additional uplighting, some displays of additional light on the buildings. And we're super excited about that. So help us spread the word and invite your friends to participate. But wow, you guys are doing so many things, and you have been so inspiring to make these pivots. We really appreciate you being part of this conversation and all you're doing for downtown. And Brendan, I also realized I knew you in your previous life in Ventura when I was running the art walk there. I remember I met you
That's
from
right.
that, and I was like, wait a second. So
Well,
very cool.
You know, Brendan, I have to tell you, I had my first black and tan at Dargan's.
Yeah. Well,
So there you go.
Dargan's has become an institution, and Paul does a marvelous job. But also, I want to take a moment, Robin, and I want to thank you and your staff, and I want to thank Eric. I just do think sometimes we forget that you guys are helping and you're doing everything that you possibly can for a myriad of needs. And you have lots of different people shouting, I need this, I need that. And so I have to truly give compliments to the downtown organization. And like I said previously, to the city employees, I truly am impressed. Like, it's very important that sometimes the entrepreneurs and the people who are business people take a moment. Matt, you know, I've been following you guys since I was at Video Schmidt. Your office was above me there, where Soho is now. And so obviously the Independent is an institution. We're very lucky to have something as robust and as insightful in a city this size. So thank you all for your efforts. Marge, I only wish you the best, and I'll be following and watching. And if I can do anything at all, please feel free to knock on my door. And I love collaborating and I love brainstorming.
Well, and my sentiments exactly, Robin. You were a tremendous help for not only the public market, but Bouchon, Olio, and Scarlet Begonia, and helping us work with the city and the downtown organization. I served on the board many years ago, and you do a really great job dealing with all of the constituencies. And so
thank you. It's my pleasure. And I got to give a shout out to my team who I know is watching.
You've got a great team.
Tim Persons, who are doing amazing things to get this set up. And all of, like, they were really single-handedly for some time while there was a transition between executive directors. They were running downtown, 2 staff people, like trying to get things up and running and doing a really phenomenal job. So thank you, Matt, for this beautiful collaboration and an opportunity to have really in-depth conversation like this. So we'll keep it going.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Brendan,
thank you.
let's get together for lunch.
Let's do it. I'll reach out to you when we're done. So again,
Take
thank you,
care.
everybody. Really
Thank you,
enjoyed it.
Matt.
Good luck to everybody.
Great to
Bye.
see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you
We'll
guys.
see you next Thursday. See, the next time we're going to be connecting again is the 15th. So next Thursday, October 15th at 3. Again, we're going to be showcasing Larry Feinberg from the Museum of Art and finding out what's happening with their renovation, which is super exciting stuff. And Jonathan Fox with Ensemble Theater Company. And they have acting classes right now that are happening and other things that are happening. So we want to find out what's going on in that space. So thank you guys again. We'll see you next time.
Okay, well, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.